Hey guys, another video for our Crime and Emergency Services in Japan playlist. So this week in the Japanese Parliament, a question was asked about foreigners committing crime in Japan, and the statistics from the Japan National Police Agency were requested, and they compared the crimes per capita between foreigners in Japan and the crimes per capita between or from Japanese people in Japan. And some of you might remember we did a video some time ago on our myths about Japan playlist, and the myth was that that foreigners commit most of the crime in Japan. That was a common myth. It still is. You often hear that myth repeated by uninformed people. And in that video, if you haven't seen it already, in that video I actually listed all the National Police Agency crime figures, and they illustrated that it wasn't true, obviously, that the foreigners commit most crime, but we also managed to illustrate too that the crime figures for foreigners include visa overstayers. So coming to Japan and staying longer than your visa is considered to be a crime, or it is a crime, which means that when that's quite a common crime. There's a lot of people that come to Japan and overstay their visas, and by doing so commit a crime. And those figures, which are big, are included in the crime figures for foreigners in Japan, which obviously it's not an even playing field, is it? First of all, a visa overstay is not really a crime against any other person, is it? It's just a crime against Japan's immigration laws. Secondly, that's a crime that can only be committed by a foreigner. It can't be committed by a Japanese person, right? So it's an uneven playing field, isn't it? And of course, as we showed in that video, if you take out the statistics for the visa overstayers, the resultant figures show that per capita, foreigners commit less crime than Japanese people do. So obviously, I mean, most people who are in Japan, we have to be more careful than most, because if we have any problems with the law, obviously we have a really good chance of being thrown out of the country. So that tends to make you behave pretty well. So even though there are some foreigners committing some crime, statistically, per percentage of people here, foreigners are committing less crime than the Japanese people are per percentage of people. So if you haven't seen that video yet, check it out. It's on the Myths playlist about foreigners committing the most crime in Japan. So it was really unfortunate because that statistic has been used before. We've seen that statistic used before. That's what triggered that myth. Is that what happened was they started to say that the foreigners are committing more crime than the Japanese people, and people that can't understand statistics misunderstood that or misrepresented that as being that the foreigners are doing more crime than Japanese people, where obviously they're not. You know, and you've only got a couple of percent of the population is foreign committing a couple of percent of the crime, then obviously we're not committing most of the crime, right? But they use that to blow it out, and so some people just misunderstood it and innocently misunderstood it and misrepresented it. Other people just used it to peddle their own xenophobic opinions, you know. However, it's really sad this week that when it was talked about in the Parliament, nobody challenged that. Nobody raised the point about the visa overstays being included in the statistics, which is a real shame because it's really important. And the other thing that it illustrated too, the Japanese media don't do investigative journalism, not like we'd be used to outside Japan. You know, they just report what they hear and what they see without any looking into it further. So they all just reported that this is what was said in Parliament, that the foreigners are committing more crime per capita than the Japanese people are, and none of them investigated further or said, well, it should be mentioned to keep it in perspective. It should be mentioned that these statistics include visa overstays, which is a huge percentage of that crime. So nobody mentioned it. Haven't seen it mentioned anywhere all week in the mainstream media or on the internet, just on the net, you know, characters. Haven't seen anybody mention it at all. That, you know, oh, by the way, what we got on Facebook is a lot of the Japanese newspapers have an English version on Facebook, and because I look at a lot of Japanese stuff, that stuff comes up, and that thing was reported about the crime, but yeah, not one mention of the visa overstay figures, so it misrepresents it. So probably what we'll see as a result of this, that happened this week, what we'll see as a result of this is there'll be more talk about the foreigners committing all the crime, which, I mean, we've been putting up with that for decades. We've been hearing that. You know, there's always a percentage of Japanese people who go on about the foreigners committing all the crime, and it just not being true, and they just don't get called out on it terribly much normally. People just let it slide, which is unfortunate, because if you call out people's BS, it helps reduce the amount of BS, doesn't it? So anyway, it is a little bit frustrating watching the direction that it's been going. I must say, it doesn't seem to be that new Prime Minister or her people's fault directly. They're not misrepresenting anything, or they seem to be quite reasonable. But the problem is, when you raise these sorts of topics, it does open the door to all the extremists and nut jobs and xenophobes and everybody else. And so as a result of these topics being talked about, you're getting all sorts of unfortunate opinions and things expressed, which is a little bit frustrating to listen to. A foreign guy I was talking to here this week said, we both said that we feel a little bit more self-conscious at the moment when we go out in public. We feel as though people are looking at us differently, even though they may not be. Just because of all these discussions, it does make you a little bit more self-conscious. It's unfortunate, you know, because I can tell you, I've committed no crimes. I've never done a visa overstay or any other crime. But unfortunately, when it comes to these topics, we all get labelled as in the same group, no matter how we behave personally. So anyway, that's more than enough of that. More videos coming soon.